The moment itself is unremarkable. No dramatic arrest. No headlines. No photograph that later generations would recognize. A routine stop. A failed attempt. A report taken seriously by someone who usually wouldn't bother. A small interruption that never makes the news. Ted Bundy never begins. Not because he is redeemed. Not because darkness disappears. Because opportunity closes. History rarely turns on grand gestures. It turns on missed chances. On paths not taken. On people who never realize how close they came to becoming something monstrous. In this world, Bundy remains unknown. And because of that, dozens of lives unfold quietly. There is no first victim. There is no pattern. There is no legend. The silence that follows is not dramatic. It is ordinary, and it saves people who will never know they were in danger. Karen Sparks never becomes a name whispered in documentaries. She recovers from a normal evening. She finishes her studies. She builds a life that never includes hospitals, headlines, or long shadows. She becomes a professional. She becomes someone's mentor. She grows older without learning how fragile her existence once was. Donna Gail Manson disappears in one timeline. In this one, she does not. She finishes her degree at Evergreen State College. She struggles early in her career, as many do. She finds her footing. She becomes a woman remembered by colleagues, not investigators. Her parents never wait by the phone. They never learn what it means to outlive a child. Susan Curtis never vanishes from a campus hallway. She completes her education. She changes jobs more than once. She complains about work, celebrates small victories, grows into herself. She is not frozen at 21. She is allowed to age. Georgianne Hawkins walks home safely. She becomes a lawyer as she planned. She argues cases no one will ever film. She loses some and wins others. She becomes sharp, respected, occasionally tired. She is known for her mind, not her absence. Roberta Kathleen Parks finishes her studies. She does not become a symbol of loss. She becomes a name on office doors and holiday cards. She mentors younger students who never hear her name spoken with grief. Brenda Ball attends another party. She leaves when she wants. She moves cities. She changes careers. She becomes an administrator at a restaurant, then a manager, then someone who knows every regular by name. Her life is ordinary, which is the point. Nancy Wilcox does not disappear into darkness. She struggles. She drops out, re-enrolls, drops out again. She finds stability later than others. She survives long enough to figure herself out. She is not reduced to a photograph from the 1970s. Laura M. never becomes a cold case. She moves on. She loves badly once, better the second time. She becomes someone's favorite aunt, someone's unreliable friend. She exists. Deborah Kent graduates. She becomes a teacher. She grows frustrated with the system. She stays anyway. Her students remember her. Melanie Cooley's car is never found abandoned. She finishes her program. She becomes a professional in a field that never makes headlines. She lives a life no one would ever dramatize, which means she lives. Carol Durant is never attacked. She never has to testify. She never carries the burden of survival. She never becomes known for her strength under pressure. In this world, she is strong in private ways instead. She chooses who she wants to be. In this timeline, there are no survivors forced to carry memory on behalf of the dead. Because there are no victims to remember, the ripple spreads outward. Police departments never study Bundy's methods. Behavioral science develops differently. Profiling advances more slowly, without a face to attach to evil. True crime as a genre is quieter. There are fewer documentaries, fewer books, fewer podcasts dissecting a man's smile. An entire cultural fixation never forms. Women do not grow up hearing warnings framed around one name. Parents do not teach fear using his story. Universities remain places of anxiety, but not haunted by a singular shadow. The absence changes behavior subtly. Fewer locks added out of panic. Fewer curfews imposed in reaction to one man. Fear remains general, not personalized. The media never learns how profitable monsters can be. Evil is not branded. This matters more than anyone realizes, because when evil lacks a narrative, it does not multiply through imitation. Bundy himself fades. He finishes law school or doesn't. He drifts. He fails quietly. He becomes a footnote in someone else's life. He is not studied. He is not remembered. He is not granted immortality through infamy. This is not mercy. This is containment. The greatest change is not what happens to him. It is what never happens to others. Dozens of women do not become cautionary tales. They become professionals, parents, colleagues, strangers on the street. They argue, age, make mistakes, recover, disappoint people, succeed quietly. They live long enough to become unremarkable. And that is the most radical outcome of all. History often tells us that stopping evil early saves lives. This story shows something deeper. It saves ordinary futures. Lives not defined by survival, not shaped by trauma, not frozen at the age they were last seen smiling. In this world, no one asks, "What if?" because nothing needs explaining. No documentaries begin with ominous music. No photographs are studied for clues. No parents stare at calendars stuck on the wrong year. Silence replaces obsession.
Absence replace aurore.
The chapter ends without drama. No trial.
No execution. No closure rituals.
Just a world that never learns the name Ted Bundy. And because of that, a world where dozens of women grow old without knowing how close history came to stealing them. This was not the prevention of violence. It was the preservation of lives that never needed to be remembered for the wrong reason. A fundamental difference. The difference between history shaped by evil and history shaped by people who were allowed to keep living ordinary, unfinished human lives. Time passes, and nothing feels missing. That is the most important difference. There are no anniversaries marked by documentaries, no reruns of interviews, no familiar face that generations learn to recognize as shorthand for evil. The name never becomes a reference point. It fades into obscurity like millions of others. And because of that, lives continue forward without interruption. Women who would have been frozen in time keep changing. They age out of old photographs. They gain weight, lose it, change hairstyles, complain about back pain. They become difficult to summarize. One of them becomes a nurse, not because trauma pushed her toward care, but because it suited her. She works night shifts for years. She grows tired. She burns out once. She comes back. Eventually, she becomes a doctor. Not famous, not heroic, just competent and needed. Another finishes college and takes a job she hates. She leaves it. She tries again. She fails publicly once and privately many times. She becomes an administrator at a cafe, then a regional manager. She learns how to read people, how to calm conflict, how to build something small that lasts. She never knows she was once a possible ending. A third becomes a mother later than she planned. She worries she waited too long. She worries she will not be good enough. She worries constantly. Her children grow up never knowing that their existence depended on a man who never acted. Some women drift away from ambition. Some lean into it. Some live lives so unremarkable that no one outside their circle ever learns their names. And that anonymity, so often mistaken for insignificance, is precisely what was protected. Their futures are not inspirational. They are real. The ripple effect expands quietly. Families that would have been defined by loss are instead defined by argument, reconciliation, boredom, holidays that feel too long, conversations that repeat themselves year after year. Parents grow old complaining about their daughters' choices. Siblings grow distant for reasons unrelated to tragedy. Grief does not become the organizing principle of their lives. This changes communities in ways no statistic can measure. There are fewer support groups formed around absence, fewer police officers shaped by one horrific case, fewer journalists trained to sensationalize predators. The machinery of fear never gears up, because fear, when it finds a symbol, learns how to reproduce. Universities develop differently. Safety programs exist, but without a single name attached to them. Awareness is broad, not specific. Caution is taught without mythology. Young women are told to be careful. They are not told to be terrified. True crime remains a niche. Without Bundy, there is no archetype that blends charm, intelligence, and brutality into a marketable monster. Evil does not gain a face that sells books. This matters because culture learns from what it obsesses over. Without a famous predator to analyze endlessly, society spends less time asking how monsters think and more time asking how systems fail. Law enforcement develops slower, but quieter. Behavioral profiling exists, but without the urgency that comes from public horror. It grows as a discipline, not as a spectacle. There is less pressure to mythologize killers, more focus on prevention that never makes headlines. Ted Bundy himself becomes irrelevant. He lives an unremarkable life. He disappoints people. He fails at things he thought he deserved. He is not executed. He is not interviewed. He is not remembered. And because of that, he does not become a template. No one studies his expressions. No one imitates his methods. No one builds an identity by aligning themselves with his shadow. This is not justice. It is something quieter. Containment without celebration. The absence of notoriety becomes a form of erasure that prevents replication. The women who live do not know they were spared, and that ignorance is a gift. They are not burdened with survivor's guilt. They do not have to explain why they lived when others did not. They do not carry the responsibility of memory. They live as if nothing extraordinary ever hovered near them, because nothing did. As decades pass, the timeline diverges further. Children are born who would never have existed. Careers intersect differently. Small decisions compound into realities that no alternative history can fully trace. Entire social graphs rearrange. This is how prevention actually works, not with heroism, with invisibility. The world that stopped Bundy early does not feel safer. It feels normal, and normalcy is undervalued because it is silent. There are still crimes, still violence, still loss. This is not a utopia, but one particular pattern never forms. One particular name never becomes a lesson taught too late. When historians examine this timeline hypothetically, they struggle. There is no single event to point to and say, this is where everything changed. That is the point. The greatest impact of stopping violence early is not the drama of prevention. It is the absence of narrative. Nothing to remember, nothing to revisit, nothing to monetize, just people who lived long enough to be complicated. The final realization settles slowly. Society often believes that justice comes from punishment. This story suggests something else, that the most powerful form of justice is denying evil the stage it needs to echo through time. No trial transcript, no iconic photographs, no quotes analyzed decades later, just a man who never became important, and dozens of women who were allowed to become everything else. This was not about redemption, it was about interruption. A small break in a sequence that would have hardened into history, a sequence that, once started, could never be undone. In this world, it never begins. And because it never begins, no one needs to ask how it ended. This is the quiet version of prevention. Not dramatic, not cinematic, not satisfying to watch, but devastatingly effective. A fundamental difference. The difference between a society haunted by a name and a society that never had to learn it. And in that silence, lives continue, unfold, fade naturally, and leave behind ordinary memories instead of warning stories, which may be the greatest mercy history can offer.